Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to HEF's channel. You're watching health, environment, food safety, fire safety, sustainability solutions. Today we are discussing very informative topic, that is what is the TDS and what are all total dissolved solids, how to reduce them, and what is the TDS levels standards, and what is the 10,500, what happens to the water then the TDS level is high, and also what are the guidelines for TDS, and how can water treatment facilities remove TDS. So this is a total entirely we'll discuss for the as per that 10,500 standards. So first of all, what is in TDS in water? TDS means total dissolved solids. TDS means total dissolved solids. What is in TDS in water? Means the TDS in water are some organic and inorganic materials which include minerals and ions that are dissolved in particular quantity in water. When water passes through stones, pipes or different surfaces and the particles are absorbed in the water, the TDS water can come from different sources such as minerals in chemicals used to treating water, runoff from the road salts, and chemicals or fertilizers from the farms. Okay, so this is the TDS. TDS stands for total dissolved solids and represents the total concentration of dissolved substances in water. TDS is made up of inorganic salts as well as a small amount of organic matter. Common inorganic salts that can be found in water include calcium, magnesium, potassium and sodium, which are all cautions, and total which are all cations and carbonates, nitrates, biocarbonates, chlorides and sulfates, which are all anions. So cations and anions. So cations are positively charged ions and anions are negatively charged ions. So these are all the TDS water standards and things. So coming to that, why do you need to measure the total dissolved solids? Why do you need to measure total dissolved solids? So testing in water is great way to check the quality of water so that you receive and use for different purpose. Here are some reasons to that to measure TDS water is that taste, health purpose, maintenance of filters, cooking and cleaning. So in taste, high level TDS in water affects the taste of your drinking water. Your water may taste bitter, salty or sulfuric depending on the type of dissolved salts present in water. Health purpose, water with high TDS is completely safe to drink. However, some substance such as lead or copper can lead to health hazards. And maintenance of filters, water filtration systems are affected by a high level of TDS. Testing the water purifier systems regularly will ensure that the filters work properly. And cooking, there is a though high TDS does not affect health, it can alter the taste of your food. And cleaning, high TDS in water leaves ugly spots on your utensils. So this type of water also fades the color of your clothes, lead to build up in your sinks, tubs and faucets. So why do you need to measure the TDS? Why do you need to measure the TDS? The water that you receive exceeds the maximum level of TDS that needs to be present in water. Water that has TDS level of more than 1000 mg per liter is unfit for consumption. A high level of TDS water can lead to number of health problems. The presence of potassium, sodium, chlorates increases the TDS level in the water. So however, the presence of toxic ions such as lead, nitrate, cadmium and arsenic present in water can lead to a number of serious health problems. This is especially important of children because they are much more sensitive of contaminants, because their defense systems have not fully developed. So the TDS provides one of the best water purifiers in India and TDS controller to ensure that the water you drink in safe consumption. So in next we'll discuss further what exactly how do the solids end up the dissolved in water. How do these solids end up dissolved in water? These minerals can originate from a number of sources, both natural and a result of human activities. And mineral springs contain water with a high level of dissolved solids because the water has flowed through a region where the rocks have high salt content. The water in the provinces tends to have high level of dissolved solids and because of high amount of calcium and magnesium in the ground. These minerals can also come from human activities. Agriculture and urban runoff carry excess materials into water sources, as can wastewater discharges, industrial wastewater, and salt that is used to dye ice roads. So what happens to the water when the TDS level is high? What happens to the water when the TDS level is high? So alone a high concentration of dissolved solids is usually not a health hazard. In fact, many people buy mineral water which has naturally elevated levels of dissolved solids. The United States Environmental Protection Agency, which is responsible for drinking water regulations in the United States, includes TDS as a secondary standard, meaning that it is a voluntary guideline in the United States. While the United States set a legal standard for many harmful substances, TDS, along with other contaminants that cause aesthetic, cosmetic, and technical efforts, has only guideline. So most people think of TDS as a being an aesthetic factor. In a study by the World Health Organization, a panel of testers came to the following conclusions about the preferable level of TDS in water. So there is a TDS level drinking water chart is there, water TDS chart is there. One of the important questions that may people have in their minds of what is the acceptable level in TDS level in water. To help out you in this chart, TDS level in the parts per million, ppm we call, the ppm means parts per million, and palatability quotient. So between 50 to 150 excellent for drinking, between 50 to 150 excellent for drinking, and 150 to 250 good, 250 to 300 fair, 300 to 500 poor, so above 200 unacceptable. So is low TDS water harmful to human body? Yes, TDS present in water is not a measure of any single contaminant and also generally not regulated as a health issue by many government agencies. A high TDS level, however, can affect the taste and odor of water. The Environmental Protection Agency in the US has set the maximum recommended level of 500 mg per liter, and also Bureau of Indian Standards also stated for this 500 mg per liter. The TDS level in the water can determine with the help of TDS meter. A TDS test helps in determining the total amount of dissolved solids present in water. However, it does not identify any individual compounds, the sources. As a result, it is essential to conduct some additional tests to determine the contaminants present in water. So, how much TDS in water is good for health? How much TDS water is good for health? So, in this table, we can discuss for that TDS level in milligram per liter. So, less than 50 unacceptable as it lacks essential minerals. 50 to 150 acceptable for drinking. The TDS level is ideal for areas where the water polluted by the sewage or industrial waste. 150 to 250 good. The water is ideal for people with cardiovascular disease. And 250 to 350 good. The water is ideal for people with cardiovascular disease. 350 to 500 fairly acceptable. 500 to 900 less acceptable. 900 to 1200 less acceptable. Avoid drinking water which has a TDS level of 900. 1200 to 2000 water is not acceptable for drinking. Above 2000 unacceptable. So this is the entire TDS level for good for health or scenario. So, and one more very important for this, why do reduce the remove in the TDS water? Why do reduce or remove TDS in water? Number one, reverse osmosis process, distillation, deionization. So reverse osmosis removes the TDS by forcing in water under pressure through a synthetic membrane. The membrane contains a microscopic pores which will allow only molecules smaller 0.0001 microns to pass through, as the molecules of dissolved metals and salts are large compared to the water molecules. Water squeezes through the membrane, leaving the metals and salts behind. This is the reverse osmosis process. Distillation. The process involves the boiling water to produce the water vapor. The water vapor rises to cool surfaces where it is condensed back into the liquid form. The dissolved solids are unable to vaporize and remain in the boiling surface. And third one, deionization. In this process, water is passed through a positive and negative electrode. The ion selective membranes enable two positive ions to separate from the water and move towards the negative electrode. The end result is that deionized water with high purity. However, the water is the first passed through a reverse osmosis unit first in order to remove the non-ionic organic contaminants. So, which water is the purifier is the best? This means, so one of the most important you need to consider looking for water purifier is a TDS level. Depending on the TDS level, you need to decide whether you need to an RO or ultraviolet or UF or UV water purifier to make your work easy. So hence it is understand which water purifier is the ideal particle of the TDS level. Suppose TDS purifier is that 0 to 200 UV water purifier, 200 to 300 RO plus UV water purifier, and 300 to 500 RO plus UV plus UF. So areas that receive water in the very high TDS level are recommended to use water purifier that use a combination of RO plus UV UF with TDS controller. So the combination of the various water purification technologies removes chemical, dissolved as well as physical impurities from water to make suitable consumption. So next, why should you keep a check on the TDS level? Why should you keep a check on the TDS level? There are a number of reasons why you need to check the TDS level in the water. Some reasons is the taste and healthy, hardness, pools and spas. So in these areas we have to check for that TDS level. Taste and healthy, high TDS levels are alters the taste of water and makes it salty, bitter or metallic. High TDS levels also indicate the presence of toxic minerals which is hazardous for health. Hardness. High TDS makes water hard, leading to scale building up in pipes, dry hair, spots on the utensils, and also make the kitchen appliances ineffective. Checking the TDS level of water helps you avoid the problems beforehand. Pools and spas. Also pools as well as spas need to monitor the TDS level in water constantly to prevent any maintenance problems. So the water TDS levels, what happen to the water TDS level is high. So a high concentration is that dissolved solids usually not a healthy hazard. So in fact people buy mineral water which has naturally elevated levels dissolved solids, and most people think TDS is being a aesthetic factor. In a study by World Health Organization, a panel of tests came to following conclusion about the preferable of TDS water. So next, however, a very low concentration of TDS has been found to give a water flat taste which is undesirable of many people. Increased concentration of dissolved solids can also have technical efforts. Dissolved solids can produce hard water which leaves deposits and films of fixtures and on the insides of hot water pipes and boilers. Soaps and detergents do not produce as much lather with hard water as with soft water. As well, high amounts of dissolved solids can strain household fixtures, corrode pipes and have a metallic taste. Hard water causes water filters to wear out sooner because of the amount of minerals in the water. The picture below was taken near the Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park and shows the effect that water with high concentration of minerals can have on landscape. The same minerals that are deposited on these rocks can cause problems when they build up in the pipes and fixtures. However, while TDS itself may only an aesthetic and technical factor, a high concentration of TDS is an indicator of the harmful contaminants such as iron, manganese, sulfate, bromide, and arsenic can also be present in water. This is especially true when the excessive dissolved solids are added to the water as human pollution through runoff and wastewater discharges. So, what are the guidelines for TDS? So, in substances and all World Health Organizations that are considered that dangerous in high amounts of the listed as the maximum acceptable concentration, and guidelines of drinking quality. However, substances that are not considered dangerous at their such as a TDS are given that objectives guidelines. So 500 milligrams per liter, which is the same as 500 parts per million. However, since that guidelines is enforceable, the province is free to choose whether is or not, for that will follow the guidelines. So high concentrations of TDS, so the province has chosen to not follow the guidelines of 500 parts per million and to implement the own guidelines 1500 parts per million. So how can water treatment facilities remove TDS? Means water treatment facilities can reverse osmosis to remove the dissolved solids in water that are responsible for elevated TDS level, and reverse osmosis removes virtually all dissolved substances including many harmful minerals such as a salt and lead. It also removes healthy minerals such as a calcium and magnesium, and ideally such water should be filtered through a magnesium and calcium minerals bed. And to add the minerals to the water, the mineral bed also increases the pH and decreases the corrosive potential of water. So in this is the entire picture and of the water TDS levels and how it is the checks and what is the requirements. So in drinking water specification also it's given the clearly as per 10,500 standards, and biological and virological requirements also stated. So ISO 10500 2012 also given. So there is a general parameters is a concerning substances undesirable in excessive amounts also. So in drinking water specification also very clearly mention of the Indian standards was adopted by the Bureau of the Indian Standards. So it will be that adapt with that USPA standard, National Primary Drinking Water Standards, WHO guidelines for drinking water qualities, and EU directives relating to the quality of water intended the human consumption, and Council of the Directive. So this standard is to specify the acceptable limits, the permissible limits in the options of the alternate source. It is recommended that acceptable limit is to implement the value of the excess of those mentioned under the acceptable render water is not suitable. Such as a value may however be tolerated the options of the alternate source. So pesticides residue limits and test methods given thus also is revised, and also routine surveillance of drinking water supplies also given the as per WHO guidelines. So end of the day, entirely drinking water is the intent for human consumption for drinking and cooking purpose from any source. It includes water supplied by any means of human consumption. So drinking water shall comply with the requirements, analysis of the pesticide residues, and shall be conducted by the recognized laboratory and internationally established test methods meeting the residue limits. And drinking water shall also be comply with the bacteriological requirements and virological requirements and virological requirement, and there is a bacteriological requirement and virological requirement also. Ideally go for that as per ISO 10500 2012 standards. So this is the entire clear picture of the water TDS levels in any purified water or drinking water or cooking water or any water systems. So guys, let us understand the water TDS level of the in water TDS level in your areas and in your home. You have to test your own in TDS meter. you can purchase the TDS meter in this online, and you can check that TDS level. It is a very important. 500 below is that it is a very health for human consumption, to cook the water, to drink the water. Okay, thank you, thanks a lot.